The vase, and the $3,000 motorcycle. A Judge Judy story of love. Rage and broken trust. The air in the television studio was cold, sterile, a stark contrast to the boiling, messy human drama about to unfold before the legendary Judge Judy. This wasn't just a case about money. It was a cautionary tale etched in broken promises, shattered porcelain, and the ghost of a motorcycle that haunted two people who once thought they were in love. At the heart of it were two American ex-lovers, a woman named Isabella, her voice trembling with a mixture of residual fear and firm resolve, and a man named Jake, whose large, 300-pound frame seemed to fill the defendant's podium as he shifted uncomfortably under the judge's piercing gaze. The hook was set not by the debt, but by the terrifying implication of Jake's statement. "I'm a 300-pound guy. If I would hit her, they'd know it." It was a statement that hung in the air, a chilling testament to a relationship that had devolved from affection to pure, unadulterated chaos. The story began not with a vase, but with a motorcycle, a shiny, powerful symbol of a shared future that had spectacularly crashed and burned. Isabella, with a heart full of trust and a desire to help the man she loved, had used her own good credit to co-sign a loan for Jake. The amount was $3,000, a significant sum that represented her faith in him. For a while, Jake made the payments, a steady rhythm that mirrored the beat of their budding romance. But then the rhythm broke. In the early summer, without a word of warning to Isabella, Jake sold the motorcycle. The physical symbol of their financial entanglement was gone, but the ghost of the debt remained, a specter that would soon haunt every interaction between them. Isabella, a woman of principle, found herself in an impossible position. The credit union, the official holder of the loan, was now harassing her because there was no insurance on a vehicle that no longer existed. The anxiety began to creep in, a slow, cold dread that her financial stability was being jeopardized by the man she had tried to support. She confronted Jake, her voice likely laced with the panic of someone watching their credit score plummet through no fault of their own. Her credit union was upset that there's no insurance on the bike, Jake recounted, his tone almost dismissive, as if it were a minor bureaucratic snafu and not a fundamental breach of their agreement. "Well, I didn't have a bike to insure," he argued, a statement that was logically sound but morally bankrupt, completely ignoring the real-world consequences for Isabella. The financial dispute was the kindling, but the real fire was lit on a tense evening in April. The relationship, already strained by the silent, looming debt, was fraying at the edges. Isabella was deeply unhappy, a feeling that had been festering for weeks. That night, they had both been drinking, having cocktails, as she carefully phrased it, lowering their inhibitions and raising the volume of their unresolved issues. The argument wasn't about the motorcycle. It was about everything and nothing, the general, suffocating tension that had replaced their affection. Words were exchanged, sharp and heated, fueled by alcohol and disappointment. Then, in a terrifying blur of motion, the verbal sparring turned physical. "He tackled me," Isabella stated, her voice gaining a sharp, painful edge as she relived the moment. The image was jarring, this 300-pound man, Jake, launching himself at Isabella. The impact was not just physical. It was the sound of trust breaking forever. The police were called, their flashing lights painting the scene in strokes of public shame. Jake was taken away, but the damage was done. For Isabella, it was more than just the immediate shock and humiliation. It was a re-injury of a pre-existing rotator cuff injury, a physical manifestation of the harm he had caused. She had to go to Aspen Orthopedic, undergo MRIs, and face the grim prospect of another surgery, all while already being on disability. The pain was a constant, throbbing reminder of that night. But the story, shockingly, did not end there. The assault was merely the first act in a play of terrifying persistence. A couple of days later, while Isabella was still reeling from the attack, nursing her injured shoulder and her shattered sense of security, another knock came at her door. She opened it, likely expecting a friend or a delivery person, only to be met with the one person she never wanted to see again, Jake. Her heart must have leaped into her throat. "I don't know how he got in my locked building," she told Judge Judy, her eyes wide with the memory of that violation. The sanctity of her home, her only safe space, had been invaded. He pushed his way in, a looming, unwanted presence, and announced he needed to get something. Isabella, her voice probably shaking, told him he wasn't allowed to be there. But he ignored her, making himself comfortable in the space he had forfeited the right to enter. The air in the apartment must have been thick with fear and tension. A conversation started, stumbling and dangerous. Isabella, perhaps trying to reason with him, or maybe just expressing her anger and hurt, said something that Jake interpreted as a derogatory remark about his father. That was the match that lit the final fuse. Something in Jake snapped. His eyes likely darkened with a rage that was both instantaneous and overwhelming. He didn't argue. He didn't yell, he acted. He picked up a vase, a simple home decor item, perhaps a gift or something she loved, and with all his force, he threw it across the living room directly at her. The sound of it smashing against the wall, or perhaps her toaster oven, was the starter's pistol for a storm of destruction. He kept going, a tornado of rage unleashed in her small apartment. He threw her toaster oven. He broke tons of stuff. A simple phrase that barely captured the violent, terrifying reality of a man systematically destroying a woman's home while she stood there, terrified. When the storm passed and he finally left, the silence that remained was deafening, broken only by the crunch of glass and ceramic underfoot. The home was a war zone. The emotional toll was immeasurable, but the financial one was concrete. She had to file an insurance claim, and while they covered most of the damage, she was still left with a $500 deductible, another financial scar from her relationship with Jake. When Judge Judy turned her attention back to Jake, his version of events was a masterpiece of minimization and blame shifting. He didn't deny being there. He didn't deny the destruction. He simply reframed it. "She threw a vase at me," he claimed. "I ducked. It went and hit her oven." In his telling, he was the victim, the agile dodger of her unprovoked aggression. The massive destruction of her property was, according to him, just a series of unfortunate ricochets. He clung to the fact that the police took him to his mother's or sister's house instead of jail, using it as a shield. "I'm a 300-pound guy. If I would hit her, they'd know it," he said, a statement so chilling in its implications it sucked the air out of the room. It was not a denial of violence. It was a boast about his potential for it, a suggestion that the violence he did commit was somehow minor, because he was capable of so much worse. He wanted the court to believe that because he hadn't left a fist-shaped bruise on her face, the terror of being tackled and the horror of having her home destroyed were insignificant. It was a manipulative tactic, an attempt to use his sheer size as a perverse form of character evidence. But Judge Judy, a woman who has spent decades looking through such transparent excuses, was not buying it. The evidence was clear: the police reports, the medical visits for Isabella's shoulder, the insurance claim for the demolished apartment. The facts painted a picture of a man who felt entitled to Isabella's credit, to her home, and to her peace of mind. He felt entitled to sell the motorcycle without telling her, entitled to force his way into her locked building after assaulting her, and entitled to destroy her possessions when he felt insulted. The $3,000 was just the opening bid in a lawsuit that was really about the cost of repairing a life he had helped to break. Lesson for the listeners and viewers. This story is a stark and powerful lesson in the dangerous intersection of love, money, and unchecked anger. First, never ever co-sign a loan for a romantic partner without a legally binding written agreement that outlines the responsibilities and consequences, just as Jake admitted he should have done. Mixing finances with romance is risky, and without the cold, hard protection of the law, you are risking your financial future on the hot and cold winds of a relationship. Second, and most importantly, pay attention to the red flags of entitlement and rage. A person who feels entitled to your credit will feel entitled to your space and your silence. A disagreement over money that escalates to physical violence, a tackle, is not a simple argument. It is a catastrophic boundary violation. And a man who, after being removed by the police for assault, forces his way into your home and destroys your property is not just angry. He is demonstrating a terrifying lack of control and a profound disregard for your safety and your humanity. His statement, "If I would hit her, they'd know it," is the ultimate warning sign. It reveals a mindset that measures abuse only by its most visible physical marks, completely ignoring the deep, lasting scars of fear, intimidation, and psychological torment. The lesson is to protect your finances with legal paperwork, but more critically, to protect your life by walking away at the first sign of this kind of destructive, entitled rage. No amount of love is worth the price of your safety, your security, or your peace of mind.